Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. This is episode number 31, kind of the start of a new season or series. We're continuing to travel virtually around the UK to chat to devotees about their projects and their initiatives. Thank you to everyone who tuned into the first 30 episodes to meet some of the characters in the Hare Krishna movement around the United Kingdom. And from time to time, we do leave the UK and go elsewhere as well. I'm really pleased to welcome our guest this week. I hope I can say his full name correctly. His name is His Grace Jagannath Nayana Ranjana Das. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
It's great to have you on the show. It's great that you've been happy. You're going to be happy, I hope, to come on and share your story. We were just chatting before. We don't think we've met, certainly in the flesh officially, but we've seen each other around at different festivals and gigs, Hare Krishna gigs.
Yes.
And just before we started this broadcast, we realized that we've got some connections, particularly with the Middle East. Great part of the world.
It is.
Beautiful materially, it's a beautiful part of the world. Maybe not so else. Prabhuji, start by telling us a bit about you and where you're from.
I'm from originally Newton Aycliffe, County Durham, and I moved down to Newmarket when I got a job with Sheikh Mohammed, horse racing. Wow.
So just to clarify, when you refer to Sheikh Mohammed, who are you referring to?
Sheikh Mohammed's bin Rashid Al Maktoum, ruler of Dubai.
Just to clarify, because so Newmarket is kind of a horse. It's a well-known horse racing area, isn't it? Is it the kind of horse racing capital of the UK, possibly? Or
yes.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. We've got two race courses here: the July course and the other one. Forget the name. The Rolling Mile.
So, when you say you worked for Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, what did you actually do? Tell us a bit about your job and what was involved.
Yeah, well, I was a jockey and went to various countries, and then. When I came back from Germany, I was freelancing in Lamborn and I wasn't getting the rides. And Godolphin, one of these setups, it was to get all the best horses that he had bought. It was just starting up. And I was lucky enough to get a job with him. And I used to work on the best horses in the world and give my information to Frankie Dettori, which is the world's top jockey, and it was just a good team. So we spent 6 months in Dubai and 6 months back in the UK.
Wow! And how are you still a jockey now? If not, how long were you a jockey for?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I had a double hip replacements, through all the falls, the wear and tears. I had some I wouldn't say major falls, but I had quite a lot of falls, and the double hip replacements that finished me with horses. So then I got into security, and I've just been sort of, I'd say, bumming around doing security. But I'm in between jobs now, let's say.
Okay. So in terms of, being a jockey, was that something you wanted to do from a young age?
No, it wasn't actually. I left school. I was very, very good at sport. I was good at judo, discipline sports. And I was the Northern Area champion. The only thing I didn't win at judo was the Great British Champion. I was never British champion. I was runner-up. And then I did boxing, amateur boxing, and I was on a YTS at Rothmans. My brother was working there, so I was on a YTS. And everybody was saying, "Why don't you become a jockey? You're dead small." So my dad loved having a bet, loved it. So he he knew a man like they do up the north, and he just put me into a stables, Denny Smith's, and that was it really. I went to the British Racing School, and
Wow.
I become like, I did it very late on when I was 17, and I was a natural really. It's sort of like riding, and then I went to Chris Thornton's. I had my first ride at York, which was on TV, and just progressed from there really.
Wow. It sounds like you've, I mean, so how long were you a jockey for? How long were you racing for?
I raced professionally until I was 27 or 28. And there's a certain point of your life where, as a jockey, you can ride all the bad horses, and the winners just don't happen anymore. And that's what happened with me. I went to Kuwait. I was very fortunate to go to Kuwait and ride for Sheikh Ahmed and Yusuf Al Sabah. I rode in winners in Kuwait. That was just after the Second Gulf War. And there was like things happened out there with me. And then I went to Cyprus, riding in the winters in Cyprus. And I went to ride work in LA, Los Angeles, when I was 21. And then I got a good retainer in Germany for a very rich German fella. And I ended up having a bad accident in Germany, broke my leg. So
it sounds like you were kind of living the high life. I mean, living in Dubai half the year and in the UK half the year, for a lot of people, is a kind of luxurious lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, Dubai, yourself. It's got all the big buildings, the nice hotels. It's got everything, and but I sort of, when I was sort of going through this jockey thing, there was there was a lot of drinking involved and other stuff, and I suppose it's like people look at the jockeys, and it looks like a great life, but it's a lot of stress putting on to you, and it was I suppose it was a bit of high life, but it's pretty hard.
Yeah, you often hear about sports personalities, celebrities who are in the public eye, in the limelight, and actually, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And in reality, what's going on behind the scenes is that the stress just kind of gets to you. So you kind of alluded to that in the kind of jockey world, drinking a lot is something that happens.
Yeah, when you're apprentice, if you rode a winner, you got drunk. If you didn't ride a winner, you got drunk. So you were like sort of you're on a balance all the time, and we were drinking beers, coming back from the races in the car. It was a good life, what I thought was a good life at the time. And then in Dubai, I used to work just the mornings. So I'd start work at 5 o'clock, and I'd be finished at 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'd be on the beach, or I'd be in the bar, and that's what I was doing. I did it for so long, but my sort of drinking sort of just went up all the time. I was didn't want to party for 4 days. I wanted to party 7 days.
And in terms of, your own experiences with drink and addiction, are you happy to kind of share a bit about that with us in terms of, I mean, we had a bit of a chat before I started broadcasting in terms of, and I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you kind of, I think, used the label addict, or you were an addict to describe yourself.
Yeah. I would I'm a recovering addict now. It's addiction's never going to go away. like I sort of I guess it just sort of spiraled. And then I guess when I was off work with my hip replacements, I didn't work for like 3 years, but I was sort of, it just sort of took over my life, you know, and other substances were involved, and sort of hiding the drink and the normal addict behavior. It's an awful thing to get to in life.
Mm. And what kind of, I mean, in a minute, I want to start maybe chatting about your relationship with Krishna Consciousness, but did you find that Krishna Consciousness has been something that's helped with your addiction with to alcohol and other substances?
Yeah, it's quite, you know, like as we were saying before, like I sort of went from detox, and when the nurse said to me, she checked my eyes and she said, "You've got liver failure, you're an alcoholic," I was still in denial. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not one of them." Like, you know, like I've just sort of been rushed in to an ambulance, like with an ambulance.
Even though you've been drinking every day for several years, you weren't willing to accept that you were an addict.
No. It's that thing. As long as you can feed your addiction, and you know, you're happy quite going along. And when that nurse said I was an addict, I stopped in, I think, for that night, and I did a runner, and I just thought, you know what, I'll prove she's wrong. So I went back out there for a week, and I was like I smashed it up for a good week, and nothing worked. You know, like the drink wasn't working, the other substance wasn't working, and then I just thought, I think I've got a problem here.
So in terms of, being told you had liver failure was a bit of a wake-up call. For you, or was it not really? It's
no, it wasn't, because I thought, like, I guess I wasn't thinking right. When I went back out there, I thought I'll just sort of take it easy or drink a little bit, which you can't. You know, I'll just have sort of a little bit of substance, but you can't. And then I was really lucky. The Injured Jockeys Fund, I phoned them up. I said, look, I've got a really bad problem here. So the sort of, I went back to detox, and that was the start of my sort of Krishna consciousness. You know, as we spoke before.
How long were you in detox for?
I was there for just over a week, I think. And then when I got out, you know, I got a phone call off the Injured Jockeys Fund, and they said, "What are you going to do?" I said, I'm going to Bhaktivedanta Manor. So that, you know, whatever they're doing down there, I'm having a bit of that.
So tell us a bit about your kind of relationship with the Hare Krishna movement. When did you first meet devotees, and how did all that start?
Yeah. I got married to a girl from Gujarat. She was Hindu, and I was in addiction. I was a probably functioning alcoholic at the time, and we got married at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I always remember I took a bottle of scotch, you know, at the Hilton Hotel, and at the bottom. And I thought, I'll have a few whiskeys before I get married. And the ex-mother-in-law, she went into the room and took it anyhow. So yeah, and then I just sort of met the devotees there, and I heard the kirtan and them chanting, and the Maha Mantra. When I heard it, it was just like, I was sort of semi-drunk, I guess, and I thought, that's pretty soothing, you know. That is sort of, that's from another level, and it was always in my mind, you know. then I bumped into them again when I was in Cambridge, and like I used to go up to them, Hare Krishna, and they were on book distribution, and I said, like, I used to say to them, I got married there, and buy a book or two of them, and I bumped into them at the airport once in Malaysia as well. So, like, I don't know if it was arrangement, but I bumped into them a few times, so I knew about the Hare Krishna movement.
So you married a Hindu lady from Gujarat, and obviously culturally, traditionally, she wanted to get married at Bhaktivedanta Manor. She was married there, but she wasn't a devotee in the kind of Hare Krishna Gaudiya Vaishnav sense.
No.
Okay.
No. Parents, they had a big temple built into the house in where they live? I forget where they live. Maidstone, and big Hindu community, and I sort of knew Ganesh, and it became quite natural. When I went to the manor, it was something that the manor, that there's something there for me. It was.
How long ago was this? Your wedding? The first wedding?
Yeah. That was I think it was about 15 years ago.
Okay, around 2006, 2007, something.
2007, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to fast forward a bit. I think you've only recently got initiated, maybe in the last 12 months, possibly.
Yes. In October.
So October last year, quite recent. So we've got kind of a lovely story that spans over 15 years here, from getting married at Bhaktivedanta Manor to 15 years later getting initiated into the Gaudiya Vaishnav Hare Krishna tradition. So you're a disciple of Krpamoya Prabhu, and I was I should have made a list properly before we did this, because they were the 31st guest on the podcast, the Hare Krishna in Britain podcast, and quite a few of the guests have been disciples of Krpamoya. And that's not my arrangement. That's possibly Krishna's arrangement, but it just seems to be the way it's worked out. We've had devotees like Padmalochan Prabhu, Chris from Camberley, who's recently got initiated, which is fantastic news. I've just heard that from you. And also Mohini Devotee, who was Mary in Scotland. And there's at least one or two others, and I'm sorry to those that I've forgotten. But yeah, and I've said this before on this podcast, I've been quite impressed how Krpamoya Prabhu has been quite successful at attracting new people to the Hare Krishna movement that are regular people from around the UK. They all have very interesting backgrounds, and I think that's really inspiring, actually. And he's done a great job at that. So tell us a bit about what was it about Krpamoya Prabhu that kind of attracted you to him, and how did that go in terms of eventually taking initiation from him?
I met Krpamoya Prabhu. It's the New Year fire sacrifice for blessing the New Year, and I was sat there and I was watching it, and afterwards he just come over and we got chatting. He said, "So what brings you here?" I said, "I'm an addict." I said that, I'm just really interested. And we had a little bit of a chat, and then I went away. And when I sort of was starting to really start to read the books, and I was chanting a few rounds, there was a few things actually happened to me. I sort of, I had my father die, and I was in a bad way. I'd just come out of an NA meeting, and I bumped in, it's really strange, I bumped into the Devotees round the corner from Cambridge. And I went like, so I knew the Devotees, and I went, Hare Krishna. And he said, are you okay, Prabhu? And I got talking to them. And then they sort of said, would you like to go and stop at the manor? And I dived at the chance. So I went to the manor, and I met Radha Govinda. And I had a good chat with Radha Govinda, and he sort of, you know, he looked after me. And I sort of just sort of like, as I was chatting to Radha and my Krishna consciousness started to grow, I heard about the mentorship program. And then, you know, I just enrolled into it, and Krpamoya was taking the mentorship program. So our sort of relationship grew from there. And I just, everything that he was saying to me was just making sense to me. You know, I'm not like a scientist, you know, like I want it dead straight. And that's what I wanted to hear. And I thought, if I ever get initiated and I wanted a guru, it would definitely be Krpamoya Prabhu.
And what is it about Krishna consciousness that you are attracted to, that you feel that has helped you with your addiction issues? What is it about the philosophy that's worked for you?
You know, when I was chanting a few rounds, Radha said to me, Radha Govinda Prabhu, he said to me, he says, you've got to be chanting 16 rounds. And that's one of the last things you should say to an addict. You've got to be doing this. So I started chanting, and, you know, as we were speaking before, the old saying, stay high forever, chant Hare Krishna. And I replaced the drugs and the alcohol with chanting. And it's just, I just love it. You know, I love chanting, and the philosophy, when I heard, you know, we are not this body, it just, I thought, that's it. You know, we're not.
Had you had any kind of religious upbringing, or had you experienced any of the religious traditions in the past before?
No, not really. You know, I was brought up Church of England, christened. When I was in Cyprus was such a crazy place. You know, people were falling off on the racetrack, so all the jockeys just to go out like that. So I started doing it. So I don't know if I guess I was religious. There was a higher power maybe looking after me, because I've had so many scrapes, like doing some crazy things, you know, something was maybe looking after me, but I guess I wasn't really religious. You know, I looked around a few mosques in Dubai, you know, but that was it. But the manor put something there, like when I first went into it, I thought there's something about this.
And in terms of, do you go to the manor often now? How long is the drive between Newmarket and Bhaktivedanta Manor?
It's not that far. When I had the Lotus, it was a lot faster. It's only about sort of just over an hour. Now in 5
the
minutes.
Lotus, yes.
Yes.
Sticking to the speed limit.
Yeah, but when I had the Lotus, it was like sort of 40 minutes.
And is there a devotee community around Newmarket at all?
No, we have we have a Sangha in Cambridge, and a good friend, Shamadal Das, god brother of mine, they have one in Norwich. So I try to get to Cambridge when I can, or like I've been to Norwich. But when I was really sort of I was off work, recovering from my hip replacements. I was going to the manor like sort of twice a week, you know. So it's just a great place to be.
Mm, mm. It certainly has quite a magical feel, doesn't it, in terms of, well, being a Hare Krishna temple, and I mean, it was the first ever Hare Krishna temple that I went to in 2004. I was sent there by my university tutors to study the Hare Krishnas. I mean, they didn't say don't join, but they kind of they reminded us we were there to study the Hare Krishnas and sit at the back and take notes. And I'm almost 20 years later. I mean, it's a lot's happened in that time. But I remember seeing Radha Gokulananda for the very first time and feeling quite overwhelmed by that sight. Something I'd never seen before, you know, beautiful deities, wonderful temple, and, you know, beautiful grounds. And it's a magical place that you kind of want to go to and experience, isn't it? And I remember one devotee, his name is, he's still around, his name's Indriyesh. He was head of ISKCON Educational Services at the time. And he was living in a room upstairs in the temple. And I remember going, and I stayed for a week to study the Hare Krishnas. And he said, Nathan, you know, when you leave at the end of the week, he said, you know, when you leave today, people aren't going to be saying Hare Bol to you. People aren't going to be doing this, doing that. And you're leaving this bubble, so to speak. And so it's going to be a bit of kind of a reality hit or reality check, to use that expression. And I was living in this bubble for a week, and it was quite a wonderful bubble to be in. So in terms of being a recovering addict, what advice would you give to other addicts or other recovering addicts in terms of how Krishna consciousness may help them?
You know, like I've got the first step. I had to write it down because I've got it. Like the first step is we admitted we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. And like I just sort of worked the steps in with Krishna consciousness. You know, my higher power, Krishna. And everything that I do now is that I used to go to the meetings, the NA meetings, AA meetings, really regular, but now it's not so much. But I just like Krishna consciousness goes great with addiction. You know, like you know, we're not meat eaters and we have no intoxication. So it just works perfectly for me. And you know, it's just really good. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, and I think I mean I've well, other than food, I've never really been addicted to anything. I was massively overweight when I was younger because I just kept eating all the time. But I've never been addicted to illegal substances. But from those people I have spoken to that are addicted to them or have been addicted to them, it can be very difficult to I don't know, convert to a religion or a philosophy, because actually on the surface of it, from material perspective, you look at the Hare Krishna movement or ISKCON or Krishna consciousness as well. You're telling me I can't eat meat. You're telling me I can't sleep with my girlfriend. You're telling me I can't drink. You're telling me I can't smoke. I can't even drink tea or coffee. Well, this is really boring. What's the attraction in this? And that's the reality when you look at it on a materialistic level. Without the spiritual stuff, it can be seen as just a set of rules or regulations, which a lot of people will find difficult. And I think that it's important, really important for us as devotees when we share Krishna consciousness, particularly with Western people. So you've got those negatives, if you like, don't do this, but there's all the positives. So actually you're replacing these addictions with this kind of spiritual life. this spiritual practice of chanting, of japa, of deity worship, of offering food to Krishna that becomes prasadam. We're replacing these addictions with these kind of spiritual activities, kind of filling those gaps.
Yeah. Like I was just going through the steps. Like we made step 3 is we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. You know, the steps just go beautifully with any religion, really. But
so this is from the AA, is it?
This is from AA and NA. The steps was brought in years ago, and you know, I sort of like I did a few meetings before I went to the manor. I think I did a meeting, and then I just went to the manor, and I saw the devotees paying their obeisances. So like I went in, I thought, whatever they're doing, just do it. So I just like laid there for 10 minutes, and I was thinking, you know, whoever you are, just help me, you know, like take this away from me. And as I was mixing with the devotees, I was just sort of, you know, I was feeling better.
I was just intrigued because I think the third step you mentioned there, the AA guidelines, or
yeah,
there's reference to God there.
Yes.
I guess I didn't expect that. I thought the AA was more of a secular thing or non-religious thing.
No. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Because like when we in addiction, you know, we liars, like we deceivers. You know, if somebody says, how much have you had to drink? And you say, oh, I've had 1 glass. And really, you've had like a bottle of vodka. You know, you've had about 13 lines of cocaine. You know, like you deceive people. So, you know, it's just beautiful. Like, and like everything that Krishna Consciousness has given me, so is AA and NA.
And if you don't mind me asking, do you still feel those temptations now?
No, I don't. No, it's I wouldn't like, you know, it's like it's quite strange when it's really hot and it's summer's day. You know, you sort of I walk past the pub and I see sort of somebody drinking a Guinness. I never really liked Guinness. But like that's just because you're thirsty, you know. Like it's like you're thinking, well, a glass of water will do me. So like the last thing I want to do is go and drink. It doesn't really sort of, you know. My wife now, she doesn't drink. I don't hang around with sort of like people who do that stuff really. So, no.
Is your wife a devotee?
Good question. I think she probably is, really. She chants. Like when I chant, I say she will chant, but she offers the food. So she's doing her own little bit of Krishna consciousness. I guess when she stops working and she has more time, you know, it might happen.
Yeah, it's always very encouraging to meet devotees and to kind of hear their stories. And I'm always keen for devotees, I guess, those of us from a Western heritage, to feel more comfortable about sharing our stories. Because, well, I'm certainly we're keen for more Western people to join the Hare Krishna movement. Because Prabhupada, you know, made so many sacrifices when he came to the West in the 60s to share, you know, kind of blood, sweat and tears, to share Krishna consciousness with Western people. And so many of us have stories that other people, I would hope, might see in them. You know, there will be addicts that will watch this podcast and think, wow, if Jagannath Prabhu can do it, maybe I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll chance it, you know,
Yeah.
because Krishna consciousness really is a philosophy that can, you know, replace those addictions to drugs, to alcohol, to illegal substances.
Oh yeah, but without a doubt, you know, the chanting just really got me. And like, as we were speaking before, like how I met my wife now, like it was she met me in the brink of my addiction in Dubai years and years ago. And then she sort of saw me on Facebook in a Devotee. She you know, she sent me a message. And she said, "What's all this Indian thing that you're doing?" She said, "Like, what drugs are you on now?" And you know, she saw the transformation, and that's how we sort of got our relationship going. You know, like and she was in Austria working, and it went from there. You know, it maybe if I wasn't a devotee, you know, she wouldn't have sort of looked at me.
Did you eat meat before you became a devotee?
I was a meat eater. I've actually been a vegetarian quite a long time before I packed in the drink and the drugs. So like I was a vegetarian. I always thought when I was in like being a complete addict that my smoking would kill me. I never think the drink or the drugs did. But I stopped meat eating sort of when I was married to the Gujarati girl.
Okay. So could you maybe give some ideas or thoughts or some tips on how we can attract more people to Krishna consciousness? What would be your advice for how we as devotees can attract more people to the movement?
I think, you know, that the festivals are a great thing. You know, the yatras. I think what Radha Govinda Prabhu is doing is brilliant. The Krishna wisdom, you know, that the sort of the prasadam, the kirtan. It's brilliant for Western people. I had a little sangha in my house for addicts, and after they left, I asked them. I said, "What do you think about it?" And the first thing they said, "Oh, we like the music." You know, I think the kirtan, any Western person must love that.
Is that something you're thinking of doing again? A sangha in your house for addicts? Are you?
I would like to, yes. I've sort of been putting a few plans together. To be honest, I'm hopeless. It's singing, playing any instruments. I've got madanga. I'm stone deaf. I can maybe organize it. I was very lucky to get Jamuna Bahari to come, and you know, he sort of played the kirtan. And it definitely be a thing that I will be doing in the future for sure. But I've got quite an exciting project going on in the Philippines as well.
Wow, a kind of a Krishna conscious project.
Yes, yeah. It's we've just acquired some land in Palawan, which is a really good holiday resort. And it's right on the beach.
Wow.
It's really good land, and it's just short of half football pitch, 3,000 square meters.
Wow.
So it's a nice piece of land there's 70 coconut trees on there, and I would like to go on to do like an eco farm, like Krishna conscious thing out there. So it's a big project, but
wow. So you're planning on moving out to the Philippines?
Yes, I've been quite lucky, really. When I'm 55 in 3 years, I'll be going out there and setting something up. We've got the land now, and we're designing the A-frames, the sort of like, triangle house.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing, and I've spoke to a few devotees about it, and I've been in touch with some devotees in Manila, and just go from there, really.
I've also been to the Philippines as well, many years ago. Something else we have in common. I spent a lot of time in Dubai. I also went to the Philippines about 10 years ago.
I've never been.
Yeah, I remember it being very hot, but it's very beautiful.
Yeah, I love the hot countries, and England to me just is never worked for me. It's like I've got this heating in here set to 23 all the time, and it's like with being to Dubai and Kuwait, I just don't do very well in, like, I've got spondylosis in my neck, my arthritis. So I was really intending to go to move to Mayapur. Like, I've been over there a few times, and I was like, oh, this is the place. And then I just, my relationship with my wife, it's just happened that we got to bought this land in Palawan.
But Mayapur is quite close to the Philippines, right? It's not so far away.
No,
I mean, to fly between the two wouldn't take long at all, I would imagine.
No, I wouldn't imagine. I've never really looked into it, but I definitely will be.
You can go to Mayapur more often than you would be now. I mean, India is quite close to the Philippines, I think.
I think so, yeah. Like I used to go from Dubai to party in Goa. Like, that was my first experience of India. Like, I just like go there and I'd party for a week and then fly back to Dubai.
So one of my brothers, I've got 3 younger brothers, and one of them, so I've been to India 5 times, mainly purely for spiritual reasons, also a bit of sightseeing and going to places. But one of my brothers has been to India, and he's only been to Goa to go and drink and, have a great time on the beach. He didn't see anything outside of the beach. I've never been to Goa, but I imagine it's presented in a certain way where it's kind of luxurious side of life. But yeah, my brother's been to Goa for the same reason that you went to Goa as well.
Oh, it's a party couple as well. Like, when they were bringing the tea out, they're bringing sugar cubes laced in acid. It was just crazy, but that's what I wanted at the time, and I just was like sort of in the material world, like, no, we all are.
But at some point, we all, I think, at some point recognize all these things might provide some fulfillment or satisfaction or happiness for a temporary period of time.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we get fed up with them. They don't make us or give us happiness forever.
Yeah, it's just so temporary. Yeah. Like the next day you're feeling ill, but with Krishna consciousness, like, it's fulfilling. You're replacing the drink and the drugs with something a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, like a lot of people in Western culture, in my teens, in my early 20s, I was drinking on a regularish basis. And I remember the worst thing was the next day feeling quite rotten. I don't remember the night before. And for me, one of the things that attracted me to Krishna consciousness is when I realized that, the womanizing and the drinking, actually, it wasn't very fulfilling after all. It provides some temporary happiness, but ultimately this philosophy, this Krishna consciousness, provide so much fulfillment. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you put it, we have to go through all these really difficult experiences to make us realize that the material world just really isn't for us. It's quite rotten and disgusting and painful. I remember being, and I share this story a lot, I remember being on a trip with some devotees in 2015, and we were driving around Northern Europe. And we were in an old rickety van that keeps breaking down. I remember the van had broken down again in Norway. And I was just feeling so fed up with the whole thing. And someone was fixing the tire, and it was raining, and I was holding the umbrella, and I knew nothing about cars or vans. And this one devotee said, you know why? It says something like, do you know why this material world is so difficult? I said, why? He said, because we don't belong here. This isn't our home. And that really hit me so hard that there's, I mean, I wouldn't say pain every day in that sense, people think of pain, but there's some kind of discomfort every day, you know? And actually, this material world doesn't provide that satisfaction on an eternal level. Only spiritual life does. Only chanting the Maha Mantra, you know, on beads does. You know, and being directed towards Krishna.
It's like my chanting, like I've always been an early morning person, you know, like back in the day I didn't even sleep anyhow, but but now I've got a great routine, you know. We used to have a routine as a rider, but now I've got a great routine in the morning, up, shower, on my bag. And it's more fulfilling than up, pouring a beer, and then going to work.
Yeah, hugely fulfilling. So I'm going to try and say your name before, Jagannath Nayana Ranjana Das. Believe it or not, we've been chatting for almost an hour. And I've really appreciated how you've been quite comfortable and open about sharing your story, particularly about being an addict now, a recovering addict. And I've never actually, I don't think I've ever met or spoke to a jockey before. And I mean, I'll embarrass myself. Before we started this broadcast, when you said jockey, I said, what do you mean disc jockey? DJ. I spent a lot of time in nightclubs in my 20s.
Oh yeah.
Dancing the night away.
Yeah.
So yeah, really appreciate you sharing your story, and I hope that your story will inspire other addicts to consider a life in Krishna consciousness, to consider at least, you know, reading Prabhupada's books, start chanting, you know. And I remember, the good thing is I don't remember the name of the guru and I don't remember the name of the devotee, but I was at the manor many years ago, and this man, I'm chatting to him in the kitchen once. We were washing our plates and we were chatting, and I said, oh, we're just chatting about life. And he said, well, he kind of liked Krishna consciousness, but it wasn't going so well. I said, oh, why is it not going so well? He says, I love to drink whiskey in the evenings. I thought, oh, okay. I said, all right then. So I said, well, I don't like telling people how to live their lives. I'll say, well, okay, well, fine. And then about a month or 2 months later, I bumped into him and I said, oh, how's the whiskey drinking going? He said, well, I spoke to this guru, and this guru said that actually whiskey, he didn't tell me to give up the whiskey, but he said basically carry on drinking the whiskey, but also start chanting and do both every day. And ultimately there'll be this friction, this tension between the two, and you won't be able to continue to do both. So I said, all right then. So at that point he was chanting and drinking whiskey, not at the same time, I might add. And then a month later I saw him and he said, oh, do you know what? The guru was right. There was a friction, and I just stopped drinking the whiskey. And the japa, the chanting, was ultimately more powerful.
It's the thing is with addiction, you can't. An addict has got to admit to himself he's got a problem, and then once he's done that, that is the first step. And then, you know, like I was very, very lucky that I knew about the Hare Krishnas. And you know, it was a godsend. It was really a godsend. I sort of I've got so much gratitude to the Hare Krishnas, how they've helped me. And like, I love being around devotees. I try to get to the manor as much as I can. You know, I go to the mentorship, obviously, still. The festivals are brilliant, you know, and I wrap it all around my my sort of my sobriety.
Well, you're hanging out with a group of people that are also hopefully all sober as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Sobriety is a central practice or activity of the Hare Krishna movement. So whereas if you, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking outside now, you know, if you joined a Christian church, it might not be. Because Christians generally, a lot of them still drink and still eat meat. So but you kind of join the right religious or spiritual community to help you with to fight addiction.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I was in Dubai, you know, like we'd go to the bar, and then you'd see the Arabs, you know, they'd be sitting there, and they'd be having a beer. So I was thinking, you know, like, I was questioning their faith, and like I was sort of like, I had a lot of questions really when I was in Dubai, you know. So it was like, I guess, like, I was in a turning point in Dubai. I knew it when I was in Dubai. It was a slippery slope down there.
When were you last in Dubai in terms of working there as a jockey?
I was last there, I think it was about 6 years ago or 7 years ago.
Okay.
I'm actually hopefully going back there in November. Me and the wife, we're going to stop there 2 days and then go on to the Philippines, and then sort of spend some time in the Philippines, visiting her family, and visiting the temple in Manila. They've got a temple in Manila, and they've got an eco village just outside Manila. So I'm going to go there and get some ideas of like what we should be doing really in Palawan. It's so I'm quite excited about it, to be honest. I'm one of them people that actually have got to be doing something. You know, I don't like to sit down and just say, I'm just going to chant. Like I want to really, like, I really want to help people with addictions. I'm a bit too old maybe to go to university and be a counselor, but maybe in Krishna Consciousness, I can help them.
Yeah, and there's definitely a gap there, I think. I mean, I know some devotees that do kind of prison visiting, at programs in prisons, but in terms of, you know, there being a full-on program in ISKCON that really supports people fighting addiction, I'm not aware, maybe because I haven't sought after it myself, but I'm not aware that it exists. And so there's definitely a gap for that, a program. I mean, not just in the UK, all over the world. So if you were to play some role in that, that'd be amazing service for Srila Prabhupada, I think. But
you know, like, even when I go to meetings now, which I don't go probably as much as I should do, but before I was always sort of talking about Krishna consciousness. You know, they must have just sat there and like, you know, normally you tell them all the stories that how drunk I used to get and how bad I was, but I was like sort of talking about how good recovery was and how good Krishna consciousness was. I think they got probably sick of me, you know, in Cambridge. So here he is, the Bangan Hare Krishna again.
Just before we go, one last question. What do your family, I mean, if you've got siblings or if your parents are still around or anything like that, what do they think about you joining the Hare Krishnas?
Right. My mother, my mother, when I first started, she was like a little bit dubious, but she's seen how much it's transformed me. And she keeps on saying to me, you know, the Hare Krishnas have done you the world of good. But really, like it has, it's just like it's transformed me. You know, like I was sort of, but like I was a nightmare. I was one of them party animals, you know, and I'd be up to everything. But it's just sort of, you know, it's just transformed me. My mum is like loves it now. She keeps on asking about when I'm going to the temple. And when I got initiated, I said, Mom, I said, this is my new name. And she tried to say it, you know. I said, just call me Jagannath. and she really, really loves it. You know, my brother's even done research on it now. My brother's, he still works at British and American Tobacco. And he's like, he used to go around the world and that. And I think everybody in my family's seen how much it's changed me. You know, like when I used to go up north, I used to be sort of like, you know, having a drink of beer. Like, you know, now like I take my bean back. So you know, it's I think it can rub off on families. I try to like sort of preach as much as I can.
And do you feel comfortable preaching to or with your family?
The meat eating, you know, like I think like once the like you know, my brother's like a bit older than me, I keep on saying, oh, you shouldn't eat dead animals, and you know, I really like I'm hardcore, like, you know, I said if you see that how it's died, you shouldn't eat it. And like I am pretty confident, yeah, that they can listen to me or they don't, you know. But like I talk openly about my addiction and about my story.
And you've got a fascinating story, and I'm certainly very grateful that you've been happy to come on the podcast this week and chat about your story and share your story. And I hope that other people watching this, listening to this on Facebook or YouTube will feel inspired and, you know, want to delve deeper into Krishna consciousness. So Prabhuji, it's been great to have you on the show this week. Guest number 31. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm really pleased that we also had Krpamoya Prabhu's blessing for this podcast as well. And I may even get Krpamoya Prabhu to come on 1 week, we'll have to say. Yeah, I was about to reveal for the first time ever a future guest, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to jinx it. So all we'll say is to thank you everyone for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do like it, please do share it and put a positive comment below. If you are watching this on Facebook, please do like it, love it, or care for it. Hopefully you won't get angry, and hopefully you'll watch it and share it with your friends and family. And if you do want to maybe get some tips or advice from Jagannath Prabhu about addiction, about how to recover from addiction, you can message this page, the Hare Krishna Project, and I'll put you in touch with Prabhuji, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to support you and help you. So thank you all for tuning in to this week's podcast, this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain, and we'll see you again soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.